Statistics are like a miniskirt. They give you good ideas, but they hide the most important things. Manchester United had 72% of the ball at Hull City, 21 shots to 8, more expected goals than their opponent. They lost 2-0. On the 5th of January, Manchester United sacked the manager they had spent 14 months building a project around. 8 days later, they handed the job to a coach with 3 games of Premier League management to his name. 5 months after that, they finished third. Everyone agrees on what happened. Almost nobody agrees on why. And the answer to that question decides whether this season is a continuation or a correction. Because there is one number from last season that Manchester United's recovery story does not survive contact with. I'll show it to you, but not yet, because it only means something once you've seen how they got here. Start with the man who isn't there anymore. Ruben Amorim arrived at Old Trafford as one of the most coveted coaches in Europe, a title winner in Portugal, a system obsessive, the answer to a decade of drift. He was given time, he was given money, he was given a squad rebuilt in the shape of his 3-4-2-1. 14 months later, he was gone. The season before Carrick took over, United had finished 15th, 42 points, their lowest finish in the modern Premier League era. No European football. A squad assembled for a system that wasn't working, run by a manager the club had just stopped believing in. Darren Fletcher took the team for 8 days. Then, on the 13th of January, Manchester United appointed Michael Carrick, interim. A caretaker. Nobody in English football was writing about the title race that week. And then Manchester United started winning. 11 wins, 2 defeats in half a season. They beat Manchester City. They beat Arsenal at Old Trafford. They beat Liverpool. They beat Chelsea. In the space of a few months, a club that had been a punchline became the team nobody wanted to draw. The £200 million spent on 3 forwards the previous summer suddenly looked like foresight instead of panic. Brian Mbeumo and Benjamin Sesko finished as joint top scorers, 11 league goals each. Matheus Cunha reached double figures. Bruno Fernandes was voted Premier League Player of the Season. United climbed from 6th to 3rd, 71 points. Champions League football secured with weeks to spare. And on the 22nd of May, the club made Michael Carrick permanent. A 2-year deal until 2028 with the option of a 3rd. Every pundit on English television said the same sentence that month.
Man United are back.
That should have been the closing. I should have let you do it.
Here's the problem with that sentence. A league table measures 2 things at once, and most people only ever read one of them. It measures quality, how good a team actually is, and it measures variance, the gap between how well you should have done and how well you did. Every table in football history contains both, and last season, one of those 2 numbers was doing almost all the work for Manchester United. Since Carrick took charge, United's expected goal difference, the quality of chances they created minus the quality of chances they allowed, was plus 2.22. That ranked them 9th in the Premier League. Their actual goal difference over the same games was plus 11, 2nd. Same matches, same opponents, same team. 9th by performance, 2nd by results. And it wasn't a rounding error. In attack, United scored 27 goals from 20.06 expected, an overperformance of almost 7 goals, the largest in the entire division. Not 2nd, 1st. Their defense was quietly doing the same thing in reverse, conceding slightly fewer than the chances they gave away deserved. Put those together, and Manchester United finished last season as the 2nd biggest overperformer of expected goals in the Premier League. There's a name for that. Opta's own analysts reached for it, and the phrase they used for United was the exact phrase they used for Nottingham Forest: a new manager bounce. You know what it looks like even if you've never seen the number. A new coach walks in. The training ground feels different. Players who were sleepwalking start running, and the shots that spent 3 months grazing the outside of the post start finding the inside of it. It happens at every club in world football. It is real while it lasts, and it always, without exception, ends. Which brings us to the part almost nobody examined this summer. The squad Michael Carrick has just been handed permanently was not built for Michael Carrick. It was assembled deliberately and expensively for Ruben Amorim's 3-4-2-1. Wingbacks bought to be wingbacks. 2 number 10s behind a striker, Patrick Dorgu, Diego Leon, Nusser Mazraoui, recruited for a shape that has now been quietly dismantled. Carrick doesn't play it. He plays a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. So the system those 200 million pounds were spent to serve no longer exists at the club. Some of those players get re-rolled. Some of them simply don't fit. And then there's the manager himself. Before Manchester United, Michael Carrick had exactly one job as a head coach, Middlesbrough, in the Championship. He took them to the playoffs in his first season. He was sacked midway through his third. That is the entire body of work behind a 2-year contract at the biggest club in England. None of that makes Carrick a bad coach. It makes him an unproven one, holding a job he was given on the strength of a run the Premier League's own data analysts compared to a temporary bounce. Which is why this weekend mattered more than a season opener normally does. Manchester United began the new season away at Hull City, newly promoted, back in the top flight for the first time since 2016, and by every conventional reading, the softest landing the fixture computer could have given them. Although Hull are a stranger opponent than that sounds. They spent their entire promotion campaign under an EFL transfer embargo, unable to sign freely while every rival around them strengthened. They came up anyway, through the playoffs, on a goal from Ali McBurney in the 5th minute of stoppage time at Wembley. And the man who got them there, Sergej Jukirovic, has won a league title in Bosnia and a league and cup double with Dinamo Zagreb in his first season in charge. Asked about facing Manchester United, Jukirovic said this: "All big teams, they have a slow start, especially Man United. I think statistically they are in right order around October." He wasn't being clever. He was describing, from the outside and without a single expected goals table, the exact thing the numbers had been saying all season. So here's what yesterday could and couldn't settle. Of the last 56 opening day debuts by promoted teams, only 12 ended in a win. 30 ended in defeat. Beating Hull City would prove almost nothing about Manchester United. It's the expected result. It's what a Champions League side is supposed to do. Failing to beat them is a different matter entirely, because the whole recovery argument rests on results outrunning performances. The moment results stop outrunning performances, there is nothing underneath holding it up. But the scoreline is the least interesting thing that came out of yesterday. You can look that up in 4 seconds. What you can't look up is what the 90 minutes actually looked like. Whether Manchester United created chances like a side that finished 3rd, or like the side their own numbers said finished 9th. That's the part I went back through the match for, and that's what the rest of this video is. So let's start where that line tells you to, with the statistics that make Manchester United look fine. 72% of the ball, 654 passes to Hull's 252, 21 shots against 8, 15 of those from inside the penalty area, 6 corners to 1, and more expected goals than the home side, 1.81 against 1.26. By almost every number on the broadcast graphic, Manchester United were the better team at Hull City. They lost 2-0, and their goalkeeper made more saves than Hull's did shots on target. Here's the number that wasn't on the graphic: expected goals on target. It measures what happens after the shot leaves the boot, not how good the chance was, but how well it was actually struck, where in the goal it went, how hard the keeper had to work. Manchester United took 21 shots worth 1.81 expected goals. The ones that hit the target were worth 0.6. Hull City took 8. The ones that hit the target were worth 1.72. So Hull, with a quarter of the possession and a third of the shots, hit the target nearly 3 times harder than Manchester United did. 8 of United's shots were blocked. 8 more missed entirely. 5 were on target, and Hull's goalkeeper was barely troubled by them. That is not a team that was unlucky. That is a team that generated volume and could not finish. And now go back to last season. Manchester United scored 27 league goals from 20.06 expected, the biggest attacking overperformance in the division. Their chance creation was ordinary. Their finishing was elite. That gap between the chances and the goals goals was the recovery. At Hull, the chances were still there, 1.81 of them. The finishing wasn't. And the team that did finish above expectation, that turned 1.26 into 2 goals, that struck the ball better than the chances deserved, that was Hull City, newly promoted, under a transfer embargo all of last season. The bounce didn't disappear, it just stopped being United's. One match does not decide a season. I said that before the game, and it's still true. But it isn't nothing either, because the argument was never that Manchester United would be outplayed by Hull City. They weren't. The argument was that the thing holding the recovery up wasn't the football, it was the finishing. And the first time the finishing didn't show up, 72% of the ball and 21 shots bought them absolutely nothing. Sergej Jakirovic said big teams start slowly, especially Manchester United, and that they'd be in the right order around October. He was joking. It took one match. So here's what I'll hold myself to. If Manchester United start converting at or above their expected goals over the next 5 matches, if the finishing comes back and stays back, then last season was a real level, and I was wrong about the whole thing. I'll come back and say so on this channel. Until that happens, last season's table is the outlier, and this is the correction. I asked you at the start to pick a side before you knew the score. Now you know it. So, where do Manchester United actually finish this season? Top 4 or 9th? Tell me why I'm wrong.